just a number. People know you by name.
I feel like
Good evening. I'll just gesture. If you're willing to, from the back, well, we're getting pretty good, but we could take a few more people in this area. I'll start again. My name is Cheryl Pauls. I serve as president of Canadian Mennonite University, and it is my pleasure and honor to welcome you to this event this evening, face-to-face community conversation entitled, Whose Neighbour Am I? Newcomers in Canada. Your presence with us this evening in this room and also live streaming demonstrates your desire to be challenged and changed as we learn together. So thanks for your trust and thanks for your voices in this conversation. As a university rooted in the Anabaptist faith tradition, we live and learn on times and on lands entrusted by God to human creatures and indeed all living things. And in this, we recognize that we are always welcomed at God's table. And we also recognize that we're part of a country, Canada, and part of a province that often defines itself through its welcome, through the welcome of peoples, and particularly the welcome of the peoples, Indigenous people, who stewarded these lands long before many of us traveled from elsewhere to become part of life here. And so we recognize where we are today on this property of CMU as property that was part of River Lots 18, 19, and 20 in the Selkirk-Peguis Treaty of 1817. Lands also part of the 1871 Treaty 1 as signed before Creator by Anishinaabe Cree, Oji Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, as well as peoples who had settled more recently, mostly from Europe. And also Treaty 3, where our clean, clear drinking water comes from. And so tonight's conversation is an extension of that conversation about welcome of peoples, some who come seeking new opportunity, some who come fleeing violence and forms and as refugees, others who come as immigrants from many places and for many reasons. I am pleased that we can have this conversation as a public conversation, a conversation that happens at the intersection of faith and life. This particular conversation is one of 4 this year where we want to talk about the place of welcome and how we seek a future together, even as our paths come from different places. Tonight's conversation will be about 90 minutes in length. We realize that a substantive conversation cannot be really explored in any kind of depth in that time. But I would say it's one of those nurturing nodes kinds of times that can be a really instructive time in how we think together, in what we're willing to pay attention, and how we're willing to act differently. We'll begin with about 45 minutes of input from a panel of presenters whom you'll meet in a moment, and following that, we will have time for conversation and questions together. At this point, I am very glad to introduce to you Arisnel Mesidor. Arisnel will be moderating this evening's conversation. He is the Migration and Resettlement Program Coordinator for Mennonite Central Committee. Sorry, I'm not used to saying that word. We're trying to not just use acronyms, but for MCC, Manitoba. This is a role he began in 2015. His primary work today is in helping churches sponsor refugees and to think about what it is for a Christian response to refugee situations to be formed at this time. Arisnel immigrated to Canada from Haiti in 2004, and since 2009, he has worked in various settlement and resettlement sectors in Canada. Before his present work with MCC, he was director of the School of Urban Leadership and pastor of Église communautaire de la Rivière Rouge, a Mennonite Brethren French-speaking church in Winnipeg. Arisnel completed a Master of Arts at CMU in 2015 in theology. Arisnel, we look forward to how you will lead us and to now introducing this evening's panel guests. Welcome here. Thanks for this willingness, grace, and peace to all.
Thank you so much, President Paul, for a great introduction. Thank you to all for being here tonight. It is a pleasure for me to be back to CMU. I was telling the president earlier, it's good to find excuses for me to come on campus, to come back on campus, and it feels very good. I was going to say it doesn't feel any better. It cannot feel any better than that to be on campus. As you know, ours is a country to which we refer to often as a cultural mosaic. This is one of the things I learned about Canada. And part of what that means, a cultural mosaic, is that this is a country when you come and then you see people from all corners of the world. And we all call ourselves Canadian. Some people may be thinking differently, but if you're thinking of Haitians, the country where I'm from, you have a picture in your mind, the way people look and so on. But I don't know for you, when I'm thinking about Canadians, what Canadians look like, I don't feel that I have a solid, unique picture as I do when I'm thinking about Nigerians or Haitians or Japanese, for example. So last year, 2017, a total of 272,000 immigrants came to this country. And according to a multi-year immigration plan unveiled by the federal government in 2017, over the next 3 years, 2018, 2019, 2020, about 1 million newcomers will come to Canada. So one thing we need to realize is that this is a country where newcomers have come to. This is a country where newcomers are coming, and this is a country where newcomers will continue to come. So the question is not about whether we will get new neighbors or we will be new neighbors to new people, but it's a matter of how many and who and when they are coming. So it is very important for us, in the light of all that, to ask ourselves the questions: what kind of neighbors are we? One thing we know about newcomers, and I have to do it myself. I came here 14 years ago. We have to integrate when we come to a country. And my sense is that the entire onus has been put on newcomers to integrate, to find their places in the new country, to learn the language, to get an education if they didn't come with one, to learn the culture, to get a job, and so on. But one thing I like telling people is that for the newcomers to be able to find their place, well, those in the country who came before them need to make room. If you do not make room for the newcomers, one way or another, despite the effort, they will not be able to find their place. And this is the context in which we are here this evening to reflect on that question: whose neighbor am I? What kind of neighbor I am to the newcomers? And I could tell you things, and you could think of things, you could read, but I think the answer to such a question, how can I be a good neighbor, the answer the best people from whom it can come from is those people trying to integrate and to whom you are neighbors. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are very happy to have this wonderful panel of 6 newcomers who have arrived in the country at different times, some of them more recently than others. Different paths came at different ages from different countries. They are going to tell us how much Canada feels home to them. And they will tell you why it feels home when they feel that Canada feels home to them. And if Canada doesn't feel home to them, they will tell you why. And I hope that you listen attentively to find out how we, who have been here before the newcomers, can make Canada feel more like home to those coming in. So I have the honor and privilege of calling to the podium, if this is a podium or platform, I'm not sure. I'm still learning English. Daniella, Mirimba, please come in, and then reserve your applause for later when I call you to do so. Reem, Younes, please come in. And in the document you were given earlier, there is a little short biography about the newcomers. So you can look at it so that you can learn more about them. So Daniella is from Congo. Reem, Younes is from Syria. I'm calling now on my good friend Nestory, Niyonkuru from Burundi. And we have also Jamileh Naso from Iraq. And Jean-Marie Munyaka from Congo as well. Please come in. And last but not least, Anie Sanchez from Colombia. Please help me warmly welcome the panel tonight. They look good, don't they? Yeah. Yes, they do. We are very happy. Thank you so much, friends, for being here. Just a reminder, I have a list of 3 questions. I will be asking the questions one at a time, and everybody will have a chance to answer to the same question, one after the other, and 2 minutes. If you're going longer than that, I'm afraid I will have to be a little rude. But I know you will forgive me, eh? We are fellow newcomers. Again, we'll try to speak as slow and as clearly as we can so that the people in the audience, they really want to hear your answers to the question. So let's make sure that they can hear what we are saying. How is that? Are you ready to go? All right, perfect. Thank you. So the first question that I have, and I will start with Daniella. The first question is, you know, we are called immigrant because we came from somewhere else. And like babies coming to this world, it's not easy to come to a new country. There are challenges. You know, I don't remember anything when I was being born, but I witnessed my 2 children being born. I can realize it's not that easy, neither for the mother nor for the children either. So it's more or less the same coming to a new country. So there are challenges we face. So the first question is, what was the most significant challenge? Or if you want, you can tell us the 2 most significant challenges that you encountered in leaving the country where you were born in coming to this new country we hope has been your home since you came. So one or the 2 most significant challenges. We'll start with you, Daniella, and 2 minutes. Thanks.
Okay, hello everyone. Okay, one of the biggest challenges that I encountered here in Canada was pretty much the language. It was hard to getting used to the language because I was born speaking French and Swahili, so it's hard to learn a new language and to integrate yourself because without knowing the language, it's hard really to connect with other people and to feel really like home because it's all comes to language at the end of the day. If you can't talk to anyone or communicate with anyone, at the end of the day, there is nothing you can do about it. So you are forced to learn the language in order for you to integrate yourself and to feel like home. So language was the biggest challenge that I had when I came here, and having to learn going to a university in language, in English, was really hard. That was really challenging because I had to learn the material twice. Then the others, because I can't get anything the prof is saying because they go through everything really fast, and I'm like, okay, so I have to go home and reteach myself everything. So language was the biggest challenge that I had when I came here.
Thank you so much, Daniella. Right on time. I really appreciate it. Perfect. Reem, what's your answer to the question?
So can we repeat also the same challenge?
Okay,
maybe?
the same. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, so first, hello, everyone. So I think I'm not the only one who faced this challenge with the language. But I think you came here, you were like 15 years old, yeah? But for me, I came here, I was 30 years old. And I had to study at university and master for 8 years. And I'm done almost from studying and everything. So you have to learn language the same, like you have to express yourself, yeah? And sometimes, even like I came from Syria, like just was subject like the grammar. Sometimes we know the grammar, but we didn't have any conversation back home. So it's difficult. I think two of my, I will say, Canadian sister here, I think you remember me when, hey, thank you, hello, thank you. They were waiting for me in the airport, and they said, they were showing me the place where who prepared for us, and then they said, thank you, like my name is Reem, but now I think I'm improving, but still struggle in language. And I will add also, because I left all the memory, the place where I was born, the family, sisters, brothers, parents, also childhood memory, friends, relatives. So it's not easy. Like 30 years old, you cannot forget right away 30 years old. So that was till now, it's difficult, but you have to integrate. Sure. Yeah, you have to adapt. Yeah.
Understand, in addition to the language, is the separation with your relative and
the
family
lose.
members.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
And you mentioned that in passing, having to restart your education despite having done 8 years of universities at home. Thank you. Thank you, Younes. Nestory.
Hello. Yeah, basically for newcomer, language is a big challenge, but for me, I see things like culture is a big challenge. Like in African culture, we like to greet each other by hug or shaking hands, but here most of the time they just wave, hi, that's enough. But in African, we just hug a person or shaking hand. That shows that you care about the person and you are interesting for conversation. Other things was in eye contact, in making conversation. We don't look direct face to face to show the honor. You have to bend and look down to show the person that you are respectful. So, but here, if you don't look the person in the eyes, that means you are not paying attention to him. So that's big challenge to newcomer, especially. Oh yes, exactly, exactly. So other things is challenging as food. Food is very big challenge to newcomers, especially those who come with old age like me. We don't know how to make Canadian food. We used to have African food in tradition, so to get it to use the Canadian food is a big challenge. Thank you.
All right, a lot, quite a lot here, but I'm pretty sure you heard it all. So thank you so much, Nestory. Jamileh.
Hello, everyone. I definitely agree with the food one, being from the Middle East and then coming here, food's a lot different. One of the bigger challenges I faced coming here, being from a small religious minority in Iraq, religious expression and freedom is very constrained there. You don't have much religious freedom there. You kind of go where whatever the mass majority religion is, you kind of stick to that route and you keep quiet whenever you can if you're a part of another group. So coming to Canada and looking at all these different colors and languages and different people of faiths and different religions, it was a struggle expressing my own religion because we were always taught to suppress our religion. So being able to, say I'm from this religion and this is what we practice and this is what we believe, that was a challenge. And being able to do that here really helped me find myself and connect to family back home, even though we're on the other side of the world now. So that was a challenge and a lot better now.
Okay, thank you so much, Jamileh. Jean-Marie, ton tour.
Hi, everyone. So it looks the same. The big challenge is language. And usually I didn't go to school before, so when I came here, it was difficult to speak English. And if someone said, "Good morning, Jean-Marie," I didn't know what happened, what they say. I was just look at people and I didn't give them answer because I can speak more than 4 languages, but I didn't like to speak English. But right now, so I try to speak. I'm still learning English at Red River College. So that was one big challenge for me because, and also the weather was surprise to me.
The weather. I know.
When I saw snow, I was, what this? Because I have never seen snow before. In my country, we have just like 2 seasons, but here, 4 seasons. So that's all.
Thank you, Jean-Marie. Anie.
Hi, everyone. I think I would have to agree with everyone that language was my biggest challenge because when we moved here, I didn't speak English at all. And I had a difficult time than my siblings learning the language because I was very shy and I was really terrified to speak because in Colombia, if you don't something, you pretend that you know. And here I couldn't. Clearly, I didn't speak the language. And going to school was really extremely hard. It's still very challenging, but I have amazing professors and classmates that help me all the time, and sometimes they stay until 3 a.m. helping me with my assignments. And the second challenge was I came here when I was 17 years old. And one thing that I noticed is that, like he mentioned early, the Canadian culture is very closed. You don't feel right away welcoming. It feels like you stay friends with who you grew up with. And that has been one of my biggest challenges, feeling like I belonged in the Canadian culture. When you come from another country, you're also sometimes more mature than the other kids. You do have like a different perspective to see the world, but at the same time, I think we are open to be friends with other people, but it's hard because I feel like Canadian kids stay among themselves, what they know, and like we are too foreign sometimes to them. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges for me, being able to feel like I could be friends with the other Canadian kids.
All right, thank you so much. So we've heard some of the challenges, and it's good to know how your neighbor is feeling, what he's struggling with. And then that gives you some cues in terms of how you can help if you want to be helpful to your neighbor. So the language. the culture, the food, the weather, and so on. I could, I'm not a panel member tonight, I'm a moderator, but I could speak long about those kind of things, what people have done on each one of those aspects to help. So now you know, if you didn't, you know what some of the challenges your neighbors are facing, what they are going through, and you have some cues in terms of how you can be a better neighbor to them. We'll move now to the next question. So we are here. Some of us, some newcomers are here, they are temporary. They may be international students, they could be foreign workers, they could be visitors. But some of us, we are permanent residents of Canada and citizens of Canada, despite the way we speak English, despite our colors. Some of us, we fled from our countries, we don't plan to go back. Some of them, we didn't flee, we voluntarily chose to come and live here. Sometimes, some people don't think that because we speak the way we speak, we are the color we are. We often ask the question, where are you from? Sometimes it makes sense. Somebody's trying to get you to know you more, we're getting to know you, it makes sense. But sometimes the context in which the question is asked would not be asked to another person who were not of a different color, who didn't speak English with a non-Canadian accent. And you wonder, why am I being asked that question at that point? And subtly, it can be, I think people mean well, but it can subtly be a sign of telling you, you're not home. Where are you from? And I remember one day I was outside of Winnipeg. I went for a little family vacation. And I went to a restaurant. The owner of the restaurant was the serving at that time, and she asked me, where are you from? I said, from Winnipeg, because I was out of Winnipeg. So, but where are you really from? And I answered, but these days I tend to be a bit more reluctant in answering that question because this is home. The question now to you guys, and be honest, does Canada feel home to you? Do you feel at home being in Canada? And if the answer to the question is yes, we would like to know why. The members of this audience would like to know what makes Canada feel like home to you. And if it doesn't feel home, tell us why. At least we would like to know. Again, I will start with you, Daniella. I hope you don't mind.
Okay, so that's okay. Okay, at some point I would say that Canada feel home, and most of it is because I came here from Congo to Uganda. It's like we've been through the journey together, so it's kind of easier to say that it feels like home, because if I have to immigrate somewhere else with the entire family, I would do it because we go through everything together. So the family being here makes Canada feel at home, makes Canada feel welcoming pretty much, because at the end of the day you have somewhere to go and you know that you'll find there your family. So Canada feels at home because everywhere else that I would go with my family will feel like home, really.
Hey, good to hear. Thank you.
For me, I feel like not just me, as everyone, maybe the attachment or the love for this country has grown up by the time, maybe, by the people, more people. So for sure, when I came here, I cried for the first year because I came with me and my husband. So I left all my family there. And for sure, I was worried, maybe they will be okay. The next day, they will be something is going to happen to them because it's not safe there. But the people surround me, the community, like Douglas Mennonite Church, actually, they let me feel like we are new family. So the same she said, when you feel like you have family, share stories, share memories, even not childhood or something with something related to your background, but they share with you, they support you, they invite you to their special maybe occasion. especially Christmas or this kind of celebration, you will feel like, okay, yes, this is my new home. And also when I had my baby, like I feel, okay, I'm settled now, and it's a safe place. And also there is lots of hope. It's better future, so it felt like home. Especially I had my citizenship test maybe in October 23rd. So when I did my citizenship test, and I knew I'll pass. We were waiting for the interview, and 2 Canadian flags were in front of me, and I looked at the Canadian flag, and they said, okay, why not? Like, Canada is my home. They give me hope. They give me safe place. They give me the work environment, and why not? I'll be Canadian, but Syria is still part of me for sure.
Can you imagine? Thank you so much, Reem. Nestory.
I think Canada, I feel like home. First of all, because when I left my country, I was 3 years old. And
3 years old?
3 years old.
Okay.
And I spent 23 years in a refugee camp. I never think to go back in my country, and it's not even safe. So that means back home, I hate it. I don't like it. So here in Canada, even though I came by myself through Mennonite
Central
sponsorship,
Committee, yeah.
yes, and people are friendly. They always call me to their house, share what they have, supporting me. I don't feel like I don't have parents, even though I am myself here, but I still feel like I have people who care about me, the people from church. I still think that they will always be there when I needed the help, as my parents should be there. So I feel like there is more opportunity to do here. I can go to school, I can work. It's much better than back home.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. And for your information, Nestory was sponsored by North Kildonan and Mennonite Church, working with MCC Manitoba. Jamileh.
Okay, does Canada feel like home? So when we first came here, no, not at all. We were always talking to family and friends back home, and I'd always cry to my parents saying, why can't we be with Baba and Dada, like Grandma and Grandpa and our cousins and everything that we left behind, not understanding that we fled a war-torn country. There are reasons we're here. It wasn't, with most refugee situations, it's not no one wants to leave their home country. You're forced to, with war and genocide and massacres and so forth. So, after growing up here and being quote-unquote integrated into the Canadian society, I learned to be a lot more grateful and, happy that I was here. So but that came with time, obviously, and being, going through the education system here and, just being integrated into the Canadian society. That took a while. And then, so fast forward a few years now, and we're privately sponsoring Yazidis from Iraq. And when I hear the newcomers and the kids cry and say, we want to go back home, and so I'm trying now to teach them that, it's, believe me, in the long run, this is a lot better for you. I know you're scared right now, but you're going to be really grateful when you get older and understand, why you're here, and how grateful we are to these people who opened up their doors and arms when it seemed like every other country in the world was turning away, both back in 1999 and almost seems like today's same situation. So definitely grateful to Canada, and does feel like home.
Thank you, Jamileh. Jean-Marie.
Well, Canada is home. I feel to be here. I'm happy to be here. It's not just now, but since when I signed the paper to come here.
It's already felt home?
Yeah.
Wow.
There is some people, I don't know how to call it, like the family Schneider, the sponsors us, is a good family, so They are beside us everywhere for everything. They help us. I don't know how to call them. It's like family. When I came here, I didn't know anybody. And when I saw them, they told me, it's us to sponsor you. But how? I was thinking it's a government, Canada, to sponsor us, but how the people can just have the heart to help some people has a difficult life or difficult security. I didn't understand that. So Canada is a good country. I feel to be, I am happy to be, I feel like home. Back home, okay, ça va. Mais here is home. I can just call, comment on dit, tell promise.
Tell promise, the promised land. Canada is the promised land to you.
I'm not Abraham, but I can say, I can say here is like tell promise. Thank you.
You see the promised land for Jamileh. Wow. That's good. Good to hear. Thank you so much, Jamileh. Anie.
This was a question that I wrestled a lot with because I was 17 years old. I came with my parents, so but I was very mature. And I remember that the day we arrived here to Canada, it did feel like home because there is lots of people who don't make it. Like my uncle was killed a year ago, you know? And I remember arriving to the airport, and at that moment I felt safe, secure. And I think that is the definition of a home, where you feel safe. Also, I remember at the airport, this lady from the First Mennonite Church, they were the ones who sponsored us, brought us cookies. And I couldn't say thank you. I forgot at that moment how to say thank you in English, and I say, gracias, gracias. And she seems like she understood what I was telling her. But, you know, today I was discussing this with Terry, and just those cookies, and I remember when I ate them, it made me feel like a gesture that I was welcome, you know, that this will be my home. Also, the First Mennonite Church sponsored us, and even though we were strangers to them, they were selfless enough to take care of these strangers, this family that they didn't know, you know, and take care of us for a year. Those kind of things do make you feel like you belong. When I was struggling with my math in high school, Carl sometimes would bike to my house and help me with my math. That's what your family do for you. When I was younger in Colombia, my mom would look for her teacher friends to help me with my math. And overall, I had a good experience. I've experienced that, you know, a family feeling where people had done things for us. And I think the best gift that we had here is my grandparents from the First Mennonite Church, my grandpa and my grandma. It's my adoptive grandparents, but I didn't grow up with grandparents. So to me, they are my grandparents. I actually have a necklace. When I graduated from high school, they gave me a necklace. They knew how much I struggled, but I did graduate. And my grandpa always had been, both of my grandparents and my parents had been my cheerleaders. They believe, even though I had struggled, my grandpa told me when he was younger, he struggled going to school. And he took longer to graduate. And those things gave me hope to continue studying. So I do have a family here. My family and my grandparents, my adopted grandparents, my grandma Viola and my grandpa Marvin Mirishnik, they are from the First Mennonite Church.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You know, sometimes I have an attention deficit, but two things I hear here. So Canada feels home, and good news to all of them. But for two reasons. Two of the reasons mentioned is because of family and safety. And the family, I think that makes sense. I could attest to that. And we can be families to newcomers, can't we? We can invite somebody home. We can help somebody, learn English. We can do that. So family, a sense of family and safety. We're down to the last question, and after that we will have some questions from the audience. And this is the last question. The audience is interested in knowing if there is something that could have been done when you look back from the time you came all these years. Is there something that could have been done and that would have been helpful to you as you try to settle in this new country? And if you don't want to look way back, that's totally fine. But right now, if you want to look ahead, you can too. What is one thing, if it could be done, that would immensely facilitate your integration to this country? So tell us that one thing we would like to know. Daniella, start with you again.
Oh, well, that's a hard question.
That's hard. I didn't think that. Okay, we'll see.
Okay. What I would say is just like, it's just being open-minded very much, like knowing that it's not because I came here, I can speak English, that I know everything. I'm still lacking, that's for sure. Like I came here not knowing French, and people around me, my surrounding, taught me how to speak English. So I think the thing that can be done, or what people can do really, it's being open-minded about newcomers. And if you see that someone is struggling with languages or something, you just learn with them, talk with them as they go, because it's really stressful when you're trying to express yourself and you can't. So it's just being open-minded and know that this person might have a difficulty in languages or something. I should be patient with them and just try to understand where they're coming from. And they're not trying to be rude or do something just because it's hard for them to speak with you. Just being open-minded about it, really.
Yeah, thank you. So in other words, be patient. Some people, once they hear an accent, they turn off. Be able to be patient and not be, I have been learning English forever and still can speak it. It's not easy. Somebody's struggling. It doesn't really matter how smart you were. Once you're dealing with a new language, it's not easy. So good. Thank you so much, Daniella. Reem?
Okay. I think 2 minutes is not enough to say what I will see. So I said the language challenge, but because of the people around me, I have noticed that they were different, so they spoke to me and to my husband very slow. So when I talked to them, I really understood that, but when I go to the bank or everything, they are so fast. So they really cared about that. They really know that. I don't know, maybe they took courses in that. I don't know. So 2 of them, they are here. And I really like to say thanks for them. Krista in Studerberg and Angelina.
Krista, can you show your hand?
And Daryl. Yeah, thank you so much. Because they planned for our wedding. We didn't have chance to celebrate in our wedding, me and my husband. So they did all the party with Douglas Mennonite Church. They were with us for the Mennonite, the Douglas Mennonite Church members, and also everything to the bank, to everything. So they helped us settle first. And I can't forget, she was with me when I had my labor, when I had first baby, when usually you remember your mom. So she was with me. And she already did the blessing way before I had my baby. Like that felt me like, till now I can, like when I felt, I miss Krista, I miss what she did to me. So, I don't know, till now also when I feel mad, like I talk to her, please pray for me. Even I have my sister-in-law here, but sometimes, feel, she's my Canadian sister, my close friend. So I think the same patient sharing, because you can't share the success. Maybe even over the phone, maybe you can share now sometimes, but even like you are doing very well, you're moving, but no one from your family notes that. So sharing is very good. And yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, Nestory, what is it that one thing that would have been helpful as you try to transition, integrate in this new country?
Yeah, for me, I can say everything is okay, the way they did, because
So Canadians score 100%? That's awesome.
Yeah, I may say it's okay, because when we came to a new country, we struggle first of all for language, and they try their best to make sure we speak the language, we go to school, and they share what they have, and we don't know nothing about the new country. For my side, I may say it's okay and it's pretty cool, but I would like to highlight the point that my sister says about being patient.
Okay.
Because we don't speak perfectly English, and sometimes we are wrong or cannot understand. If they don't feel patient for us, we cannot do anything. So I think everything is okay.
Okay, thank you, Nestory. Jamileh?
Let's see. So I was younger when I came here, so I was lucky enough. The language wasn't a big issue for me. I started grade 1, so I've been here forever, feels like. But one of the challenges was, like, I was picking everything up as a sponge. Everything was coming to me right away, and I could read, write, everything. By 3rd grade, I was just like every other Canadian child. But my parents, on the other hand, who were not getting anything, nothing, and always had fears and always were asking me questions, and I didn't know how to balance the two cultures and say, well, this is how they do it in Canada. Why are we doing it like this? And just that headbutting all the time, and every issue, whatever it was. If I had to stay late for school, they'll be like, they wouldn't understand that sometimes schools have programs and stuff that you stay after school for, or like homework help and stuff like that. And they're like, well, what are they teaching you at school? You know, because no one really explained to them when they first came those types of things. I mean, just a small little example, earlier today, one of the newcomers was at our house before I came here. He just bought a car, and my dad goes to him, do you know what kind of gas you have to put in the car? And he goes, is there different types? So just little things like that, right? And he's like, yeah, there's 3 different kinds. You know, you have to put the right one for your car or you're in trouble. So just little things like that. And working with newcomers now, I see that as an issue still, because I see a lot of parents come talk to me and they're like, well, how did you guys do it growing up here? Like, how are you guys not crazy? Like, you guys go out for 8 hours here in this culture and then you come back home and you're still pretty sane. Like, how'd you do it? We're so scared every time our kids walk out the door and so forth. So, so creating a balance so parents aren't left in the dark and, you know, the kids become integrated right away as they do, because they're still so little and they pick things up right away, whereas the parents need more time. So definitely with our immigrant centers and things like that, I don't see it as big of an issue, because you're privately sponsoring, so you're usually bringing people from your community into your community, so it's easier to integrate them. But with government-sponsored families, I find that to be a large issue, because people from the Canadian culture don't really understand those types of fears that the parents have, and it creates a bit of a rift between the parent and child. So definitely addressing those issues is a big issue.
Thank you, Jamileh. Jamari? Yeah, remember the question, right?
Repeat again.
What is it one thing that could have been done or that can be done that you would find helpful as you try to settle in this new country?
As I said, I still learn English, so I have plans, but I can't do that because my English is bad. So I have to learn English to to get my goal. So like I was car mechanic and bus driver, but here I can't work. And I have to go to school. If I go to ask about job, everybody told me about diploma, and they don't accept the diploma from back home. So that's why I have to learn English. Maybe one day I will go to college to do my job, what I know.
And come to CMU. I don't know if they teach to become a bus driver, but there are things. You can come here to study. Maybe not to be a bus driver, but.
So, yeah, that can help me, because here, everything is, I don't know how to say, everything is, they programs, back home you can just call someone for a driver license and you can give them money and you can get driver license easily.
Yeah, easy.
But here you have to learn, you have to get knowledge test, load test, but it's not the same back home. To get class 1 driver is so hard to get it. But back home, what I said, just if Arsene is my brother, I can call him. I need class 1. Okay. How much do you have? So, it's different. So here I say you have to use your brain. You have to study. You have to plan. You have to pay the money. You have to everything. You have to plan to get the good job. Because when I came here, I will get job easily. But it's not too hard, but it's good to do what you know. Don't go just to work and you can just make mistake. And so I think in 2 years or 3 years, I will be better than, yeah.
Thank you, Jamileh. Anie.
I personally think that psychological help would have been very helpful for me and my family in the transition to live in Canada. That would be one thing that I would have hoped we would have. And because people in the outside look great, but you don't know how, they have experienced a lot of terrible things, and that also affects learning the language and your development here, and how you cope with the new culture and the new language. And the other thing that I think that would have been helpful, I am not being ungrateful. I am very blessed and thankful that we were helped for a year by the First Mennonite Church. But speaking personally for my parents, I didn't ask them, but what I had seen, I wish, we've been here for 17 years by now, but I wish we would have had one more year where my parents could have learned the language better, that we could have had economic help so they could have studied English a little bit more. That is my only 2 things that I can think of.
Right. Thank you so much. I would like you to join me in giving a hand to the panel members, please. Thank you. We plan to complete this phase of the discussion at 7:55, and now it's 7:56. We've done well. Well, thank you so much. That's very good. Now, for the next 30 minutes, you members of the audience will have an opportunity to ask questions to the panel members. Feel free to ask questions to a particular panel member based on what you want to know, or direct it to the entire panel, and the person who feels more at ease to answer it will answer it. And panel members, you feel free to engage directly with the person who asked the questions. And don't hesitate also to interact among yourself. If Reem, for example, answers a question in a way you don't agree with, you can tell Reem, Nestory, no, I don't agree with the way you answer that question. We'll keep, track of the time, but it's going to be open. So there are mics. I see somebody already lined up, so thank you so much. Let us fire the questions away. Thanks.
Hi. Thank you, panel, for your input. I have a question about naming. How long are you in Canada before you're no longer newcomers? How long are you in Canada until we stop referring to you as refugees? How long are you in Canada until we say, well, they're something else? Like your self-identity. Like we have that trouble with families we've sponsored. We say, well, the refugee family. But no, they've been here 5 years. Are they still refugees? Or what are they? They're not really Canadian yet, but the name, and does it bother you with how people refer to you?
Thank you so much. That's a good question. So let us go, guys. Who wants to tackle that one first?
So now I had to say I came here as a refugee because I'm dealing with my job with refugee. So I said, I have to ask him, did you come here as a refugee? And they stopped. No, I didn't come as a refugee. Like my family, sponsor or something. And then I say, I came here as a refugee. So then they start to share their story. But now, yesterday in the job and the work, they were making a joke. Yeah, they said, oh, your area, it's a refugee area. I said, I'm proud. I came here as a refugee. It doesn't matter. So for me, so I don't know.
Okay, I think I will try to answer that question. I feel like once you come here as a newcomer or as a refugee, it is an identity that you already have. So people will know you by the name as those refugees, because I can become Canadian today. You're not going to refer me as that's Canadian. It's hard because you're already used to that to the expression, the refugees or the newcomers. So that label stays with you for as long as it can, really, as long as until people will get used to you and really get settled in. I feel like that newcomer label still just follows everyone who is immigrant. So it's just the newcomers. It's hard to just remove the label, really.
I feel like the day that we were so eager to be Canadians. I feel like the day we became Canadian, we had that card, I stopped being a refugee. And I don't identify myself as a refugee, although I know that we were. So I see that as a past. I'm just sharing my story, maybe that it will help someone, but I don't feel like I'm a refugee. I feel like I'm a Canadian, and I'm proud of being Canadian. And I work and study, and I want to be part of this culture. And the other day I made the mistake. We were at the restaurant with my mom and a friend of our family. They're sitting back there, and this gentleman walked towards us and said, would you like to sit with us? But my mom is still very nervous to speak to people because she doesn't understand everything, but I always tell her, Mom, go volunteer at the church to throw yourself out there so you can learn the language, because that's the only way. And then this gentleman asks us, so why did you guys came to Canada? And I say, oh, we are refugees. But it felt uncomfortable for me even to say that I was a refugee. But even though that was the title, why? Because we were fleeing. And he said, no, you are not refugee. Refugee are people who are fleeing, running away from their government or some problem in their country. And inside me was like, well, that is my reality, but hey, it's okay. He told me I'm not a refugee. Okay, fine, I am not a refugee. I'm Canadian.
I came as a refugee. It's okay, because you want to let the people understand refugee. Like they came here not by their choice. They came here by force, like to stay in a safe place at least. So when I say, oh yeah, I came here as a refugee from Syria, I said, oh, refugee? Yeah, refugee. But I still have maybe the same skills that you have and everything, but just I had to leave my country. So now I feel like, yeah, I'm okay saying I came as a refugee, just to make it clear. Because now my colleague, they said, oh, I thought the refugee, they are less than immigrant, you know what I mean? But I don't know what about my daughter later on. We'll see.
Is this on? Yeah, okay. So our refugee families, they usually refer to us as the old refugees. They say, we're the new wave and you guys are the old wave of refugees. But I find outside of our community, when we talk at events and stuff like this, the language we use to refer to refugees, newcomers, immigrants, migrants, economic workers, things like that are really important. Because of facts and because of we're looking at stats of refugees and things like that coming in, we need to be aware of what class of people are coming in, because there's a lot of fear mongering and stuff like that too. So being aware of privately sponsored refugees and government sponsored refugees and those types of things are really important in conversations like this. But when it comes down to our community, it's usually just the old refugees and new refugees. That's how we refer to ourselves.
For me, I can say that name is like permanent in two ways, because depends how people treat you. Like, especially when they ask you where you come from, they remind you what you went through, and especially even though you may have identification, so you are a permanent resident, they're not gonna use another specific name. They say, okay, tell me where you come from or why you are here. How do you come to Canada? Those kind of feelings reflect you what you went through. But another way I may say that, according to how people can treat refugee or people, the newcomer, the name can be deleted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
There's some. I need to add some, but I came here by a refugee, but I have now PR, card permanent residence. There is no refugee on. No. So.
Yeah. So before the next question, if you allow me, this is a very interesting question. People who have come to this country could see themselves differently from one to another person. That's their choice. Some of them, they are here, they've been here for 5 years, for 10 years, but they still hope they can go back. They have a right to think the way they do. But as members of the welcoming country, the host country, we need to know that when refugees mean people who are in limbo, they don't have a place to call home. They are not where they were born. They are in a place where they cannot stay. They are on the run. And in the case of Canada, the minute they land, well, not the minute, but the hour they land at the first airport in Canada, by the time they walk out of that the terminal of that airport, they will be holding in their hands a piece of paper called Confirmation of Permanent Residence. They are permanent residents in Canada, and Canada is their home if they choose to live here. They are no longer refugees. We all use the language, unintentionally, but I am part of those people trying to remind people, no, sponsored refugees, government or private, they are newcomers from a refugee background, but in Canada, they are not refugees. If we could remember that, that would be very helpful. Yes, sir, next question.
Okay, there we go. Our church we have a church in Charleswood, and there's 3 churches, Lutheran Church, Catholic Church, and the Mennonite Church. We formed a group called Crest. Some of you know about this. And our church, the Mennonite Church, is open to having people come in, newcomers come in to the church for an afternoon, for especially mothers who tend to be sometimes at home a lot with small children and stuff. We're having a hard time trying to identify people who are newcomers in that area, so that we would have volunteers, we would have a program for them and so on. Is there a way in which one can find out who is a newcomer in our community so that we can do something with them and welcome them to that. We've tried the school, and of course their privacy issues don't let them say a thing about certain things. So are there ideas on how we, as a church that is ready and willing to do something, can expedite some kind of a welcoming thing? Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, guys. But also, if somebody from the audience has the answer, because I don't think we can answer all questions, but if you have the answer, feel free to respond. But
from my experience, you can, like for the social or community service, the service provider, so immigrant center, they work with the immigrant, like welcome place, they welcome the refugee and immigrant, lots of another organization, so you can contact with them and they really help actually.
That's a good point, because I used to coordinate a volunteer program for a settlement agency. You want to meet newcomers, you find one of those settlement organizations that have a volunteer program and apply to become a volunteer. Then it's natural. You meet those newcomers. And I could mention some names, I'm not here to advertise, but there is an organization, a small organization called CHAI. I had a chance to be the director of that organization for a short time. CHAI stands for Christian Helping All Immigrants. They meet on Friday night at, what is that place? The entry program, 159, no, it's not 159 Henderson. I think 259 Portage. In the evening, you go there, they will be happy to see you, to come and then to meet newcomers. You want to meet newcomers? Friday evening, go there. If you want more direction, let me know. Yeah.
Oh, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your stories. They were extremely powerful. As someone who works with pre and post arrival, I learned a lot. It's very easy to see people looking different from you day to day, and just imagine that they live the same way you did. So hearing your guys' stories was really impactful. My question to you guys, each one of you, is what made you guys decide to come and share with us, to share your stories?
Then don't say Arisnel asked you. Say something else.
The reason why I decided to come and talk about it is because it is something that I live, It is my daily life, being a newcomer, being in a new country where there is a ton of different people. I meet different people every day, really. And I'm like, why not share what I've experienced with others so that they can learn? And if there is newcomers next time, they will know how to treat them or how to go around them and see how they can make their days better, pretty much. Yeah, that's why I came here to speak to you today. Yeah. So.
As I said, sharing. And also sometimes when you feel like it's time to give back, so I feel something if I talk about my story, maybe it could be like lead some people some way. And also the more I talk, I feel the more be okay with myself. First, when I start talking, I cried every time I talk. So I'm like, from now I'm strong enough to share the story.
Good.
Yeah.
I did to come because there is some people, I remember when I was in school, I met one friend, he says, the first time he saw a black person, it was in 2012. And
2012?
Yes, and I reflect on that. So some people, they think like they don't know how refugees look like. They say, oh, how the refugees look like. They have been living in the camps. Maybe they are not, I don't know. But I decided to come so I can share my story and people can learn from that.
Good. Thanks, Nestory.
Everyone else said, the only way to learn from our past mistakes, I guess, is to, share and hopefully learn from those experiences and just help pay it forward. I know being a refugee was a bumpy ride, and now working with refugees is still a bumpy ride because I'm still learning. And then, so just sharing and hearing from other people who have gone through these experiences and their different routes and paths they took to navigate the system is helpful because it teaches us all and helps us all in the long run. So
Thank you.
Well, like I said, to share history is a good thing because you can just learn something about me, and maybe tomorrow you can just help another one from different country to come here because you heard something touch you. So I came here just to share my story. I have a long story, but it's short time, so. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we always learn, every day we learn something new, right? And that's why I am here. Probably our stories are similar, probably there was something different, but you know, Lord, every person has, they have questions, and when you ask and you want to improve, you learned, right? So.
Thank you, Anie. Thank you. Next questions.
Thank you for sharing your stories. I can relate to a lot of what you have said on several levels. I was a refugee as a child. My family fled from the Ukraine via Europe and then came to Paraguay. And I distinctly remember, I was 7 years old when we came to Paraguay. The other children around me told me I was a refugee. And I took offense of that. I said, I was a refugee. And I, to this day, don't know why it bothered me as a small child to be called a refugee. Well, I also know exactly what you're talking about, learning languages, the new language. I've learned 3 in my adult life. And I know how long you feel stupid, that you stand there, you go to the train station and ask, how can I want to buy a ticket to Zagreb in my case. And I knew how to ask it. But he said, do you want a return ticket? What's that? I didn't understand. I knew my question, but I did not understand what he was saying. So hat off for you for your diligence in learning a language. It's fun once you know it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Hello. Just wanted to say, hello. Thanks to all of you for coming to speak and share your stories. I'm very fascinated by stories, and I think I'm really interested in hearing about what you spoke about, some of you spoke about earlier, that sense of belonging in Canada. Having worked with newcomers for the past 8 years, I think what a lot of Canadian-born folk don't understand is that sense of not belonging, right? I was born and raised here in Winnipeg, so even I'm still learning that I have that benefit of that belonging. But as a refugee or as a newcomer, there are those times where you feel like you don't belong, right? You feel like you automatically don't belong here. And so I'm wondering if you could share a time where you felt like you didn't belong, and maybe more importantly, what were the things that, those small actions, sometimes they're small, like someone giving you cookies, or sometimes they're big, like friends planning your wedding. What are those things that helped you feel like, no, I do belong here? Thanks.
Thank you. You want to start?
One of the things that's made me feel like I do belong here is pretty much when I going to church, I met like good people there, and they really helped us a lot. And that makes you feel like you belong somewhere when you know that there is someone who cares about you, as she said before. When you know that you are in a new place and you feel like someone is welcoming you, they want to help, they really have the urge to help you to integrate to this new country, because there is a lot to learn in Canada. It is really vast. So if you're just by yourself, you can learn. But going to church and to school too, maybe some kids are not welcoming as they should, but the other one really want to help. So when you see someone smile at you and say hi, I feel like I belong, because why not? They're smiling and they're saying hi to me. And that was the first thing that I saw. Canadians like to say hi and they smile on their face. And I really like it when someone smiles at me and say hi. I'm like, oh, hi, you know? It feels more like home, and you feel like you belong when you have someone smiling at you and then you can share everything with them. That's really made me feel like home, really.
That's good point. And I learned a smile is that one thing you can give as many times as you want without ended up losing it and not having it anymore. So we can smile, can't we?
So for me, sometimes when I don't catch up all the things, like the song, maybe the show, so they were talking about, and the job about show, I said, okay, no, I haven't heard about this one. I'm okay now, but I don't know if my daughter later when she grow up, I think I had to learn lots of things, because I need her to be competitive with the other, like her peer, Canadian peer. But the other side, I want her to keep maybe my value, yeah? So sometimes with some occasion, I feel, no, like when my birthday, I feel, okay, I feel sad actually. Because you remember when like your parents, they were celebrate your friend, but when other friend, they remembered you, I feel no, you were like you have like struggle both. I feel now I'm alone, but no, there are people waiting or caring about you. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Like you feel like sometimes long. It depends to the person also. First, when I came, I was forcing myself to meet the Canadian. Like I had headache when I hear English, then say, Reem, you have to do it. You have to listen, you have to listen. And also when you say, I have to go, I apologize for many visit to the force, or people say, no, I'm not ready to do it. Like I feel I'm not like them. But then when I enforce myself, time by time, you feel, no, you can do the same thing, and you can feel like it's home, or you belong to somewhere.
Thank you, Reem.
I think we feel we belong here. Depends how people can treat us, how people treat us. I will give you an example. For me, I feel like I belong here because people who brought me here from church, they treat me very well, as they can treat their siblings. They treat me as their son. When I came here, I was alone, as I said. I didn't know how to cook or to make any food for myself. But they took me to their house. They teach me how to cook chicken noodle soup and other stuff like that. So actually they treat me very well. So I feel like I belong here because nobody separate me, nobody put me aside. They'll say you're a refugee or like that. No, they treat me equality.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nestory. Jamileh, do you have an answer to the question?
So when we first arrived, we were brought to Morden, Manitoba, and I can't think of a better place to go if you're newly coming to a country and you know nothing and know nobody, because that community really took us in as their own. I mean, even though we had no idea what we were saying to each other half the time, most of the time, every day they would come with their traditional meals, like food. They would babysit us because we were a family of 8, so we're a large family. And they would watch us kids while my parents got to relax or take my mom out shopping, and just these little sorts of things. And you know, sometimes we'd ignore them because we're like, oh, they're here again. Like, what do they want? Like, we don't we don't know what you're saying, and we just don't, we're like, hey, you guys just stay there and we'll do our thing type thing. But they were so relentless with their smiles. And, eventually they won us over. So, yeah, just definitely showing up and having that level of empathy and compassion that, most people do have when they're willing to open their doors to complete strangers. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I can just add, as
Nestory?
what's the name?
Nestory?
Nestory said, me too, they teach me how to cook the Canadian food because I always eat my culture food, so and they show me everything. The family sponsored us. They show me everything from here, and also from church. I don't have any problem for the Canadian people, so I'm okay with them.
Thank you.
I think that when you're younger, the moment that you feel that you're part of this culture is when they invite you to their parties, when the Canadian kids invite you to their parties, so then you're like, okay, now I'm part of this, But, sometimes I used to make jokes and they didn't understand my sense of humor. And that was a little bit hard.
Don't do that. You have to understand the joke.
But I think that sometimes there were people who will understand my jokes, especially the people from the farms. I think they understand more the immigrants. I don't know why, but we do have some kind of connection there. And also, I remember my first year, Eric and Andrew, they used to live beside my apartment here, and sometimes they would be like, hey, Anie, come and hang out with us, and this bunch of people will come in. Even those little things, going off your way or inviting someone to go to their house, that makes you be part of it, makes you feel like you belong here and you're part of this culture. Yeah, saying hi, I like when they tell me I look beautiful or something like that, but hey, some people don't like those kind of things.
Okay, next question.
First of all, thank you very much for sharing your stories and for allowing all of us to learn, right? And also learning from each other. I have a slight allergy to the word help in the sense of, people were helping. We all need help at times. But if one side is helping all the time, then what does that say about the other side? So my question to you is, when did you feel that you had friendships with people who are from Canada where they were equal, where it was an equal friendship, where it wasn't a feeling of other people trying to help all the time? And some of you can answer and some of you cannot. It doesn't have to be down the line. I mean, either way, I'm just curious.
Yeah, and we only have 5 minutes left to conclude this part, so we may not have enough time for everybody to answer, but 2 or 3 of you who would like to answer that question, please feel free to do so. Yes?
When you start help, Shalom Mission, when you start giving back, you're also helping back, right? Sometimes I help my friends with my homework. I had to relate with the schooling. When I help my neighbor shovel their snow sometimes. I do have a best friend. She's Canadian. And that helped me feel like we are evenly. We trust each other, we talk with each other. I feel like I'm giving back, and I also feel like I belong. Because there is no difference between us. We are friends, and we have each other back.
Yeah, thank you, Anie. Yeah, Jamileh? Yeah?
That's a really big question. So when did I feel equal to, I guess, my Canadian peers? I always felt like I couldn't contribute to them. I was always the one taking. Like, I was always on the receiving end and just taking, because I didn't feel like there was anything that I could teach them, because they grew up here in this perfect world and like they just knew everything. And like, what could I offer? I come from a third world country that's like war torn. What could I possibly offer to these people who seemed like they had everything? It wasn't till I was older and I was, I guess, talking about my experiences and then hearing them say, oh my God, hearing you say that has completely changed the way I see my world, how I see my neighborhood, how I wake up in the morning and things like that. So it wasn't until much later, like recently even, that I start to think, you know, wow, I'm actually on, it's not, the relationship isn't one above the other, it's equal. It's a human relationship. Like, we're all in this together type of thing, rather than, you know, you're lucky, you're the lucky one, I'm helping you, and so forth. So, yeah.
So, thank you. So, let's take the last question, if we may.
And I'll direct it to you.
Oh, to me? All right, we'll see.
Because you have referred to it a couple of times, as have the panel members. I've been an academic and administrative academic, and as such, I've had a lot of connections with international students. I've also lived in other countries. So when I see somebody that has a different skin color or looks different than me or has a different accent, I just get an urge to find out more about that person. And in fact, even if I would meet another Canadian from, say, Quebec, I would be interested in getting to know more. So my question is, do I have to suppress my urge to engage that person and ask them where you're from or how long have you been in Canada? Or can I continue to do that without being too offensive?
Sure. It's a good point. I may not have mentioned that earlier, but it all has to do with the context in which the question is asked. I mentioned earlier, fellow Manitobans could meet and one wants to know where the other is from in the province. So there is a place for the question. But I have personally been myself in a situation where the question was asked of me, even before somebody said hi to me or know anything. That's the very first question I got asked. And I sort of believe if it were not for my color, if it was, there was an example. Several of us came from Winnipeg, going to another city in the province. We did a presentation, and somebody came to attend the presentation. There were several of us in the room. And somebody came to attend the presentation, and I heard a question shout across the room, "Where are you from?" I did not even realize that person was talking to me because I have, as I mentioned, I've even said hi to the person. So, and then later I realized that, okay, she's talking to us, but I didn't realize it was me in particular. I said, oh, we are from Winnipeg because we're in another city in the province. And she said, no, where are you from? And I did feel like the gentleman who spoke earlier when in Paraguay, he was called refugee, and he didn't really know why, but he felt uneasy about it. I have to express it. You know, I had a chat with the lady, and I apologize for having been rude, but I cannot hide the fact that I felt quite uneasy about the way in which the question was asked. In fact, if I were to provide an answer here, is that let us be mindful of the context. And I heard other stories. Somebody walked to a bus shelter, and then he just come in there. Many people are waiting for the bus, and then he just came. Didn't know anything about two girls who looked Asian. Where are you guys from? So sometimes you feel the context in which the question is asked is a little bit subtly, maybe unintentionally, reminding you maybe you're not from here. So. But I would be a little bit mindful about the fact that some newcomers, at the very least, may not feel good about being asked that question first thing in an encounter. So that's my take on it. I feel that there is a desire for more conversation, but I have to respect the time, otherwise Terry, would you agree? Would you allow that? Would you allow another question, a last question? Okay. Okay, well, go ahead. Okay, thanks.
I lived here more than 40 years, but still...
Oh, can we get you a mic, please? If you could get to the mic, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I lived more than 40 years. Still, they ask me where I am from, you know. I am really proud to say where I'm from. I never get hurt by that. I am really, really very proud. This is what I'm saying. You are very rich people. You are from so many, not one country. You know so many more than one country. You know more than one language. So you consider yourself very lucky, very rich, and you should be proud of yourself if anyone asks you where you're from, or do you speak language, English. You know more than anyone else. So I feel very proud of yourself, and I have seen lots of people what they go through, because I work for Canada Customs. I've seen what they go through, they go down, but we speak to them personally, we encourage them, we make them feel proud of themselves, because you have seen more than anyone else from here. So don't get offended if anyone asks you where you're from, how long you're here, what language you speak. No, you feel very rich, you are very rich in culture, in everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. So Don doesn't seem that he's asking a question. So do we have any last word from you, Terry, or from somebody else? So this is the end of the discussion panel as far as I am concerned. So let's see what Terry would have to say.
Thank you, Arisnel. Part of my role here at CMU is to work at events, conversations just like this. And over the last 8 weeks, Arisnel and I have met 4 times, lots of conversations. He has been immensely helpful in terms of trying to shape this kind of a conversation. So first of all, Arisnel, thank you sincerely for your role. And I think it's safe to say from all of us, again, to each one of you as panelists, your stories have touched us. Your vulnerability, your honesty has spoken to us in really important ways. And we leave tonight, I think, with better insights about who it is that we are and the kind of neighbors we're invited to be. So thank you. Please join me again in thanking our panelists. And thanks to each one of you for coming. There is still cookies and coffees back there. Feel free to come on up and say hi to these folks. Safe trip home.